I just started crying, man. Like I just couldn't control myself, started crying. And I had a moment where I just realized that it was all on me.
A bit isolated, like when you're that young as well, it's the first time you kind of feel these strong emotions.
Leaning into negativity has always been more motivating than positivity.
Soul searching and doing yoga and partying for the past 4.5 months.
You will be happy. It is possible for you. You can get to that point and you'll do fine.
Hey Adam, how are you today?
Doing good, my man. How you doing?
Yeah, doing good also, Adam. It's actually funny, I first heard of you. You were speaking at a university event in UCC, University College Cork back in Ireland.
I remember.
Yeah, my friend Fionn Cox organized the event. He was running like a incubation entrepreneurial event, and you were a guest speaker, and I joined like halfway through, and yeah, I thought it was really interesting what you were saying, but I only found out at the end that you were like you were from our cohort, so like you were the same age as me, and I was kind of like baffled at like you just finished university 1 year, and you achieved like you had this marketing agency, and you just coaching business, and you'd succeed. You had like you had seen success in both of those businesses you had, and yeah, at the time I was baffled. So maybe first question, Adam, is how did you do so much at such a young age?
Damn, first man, I actually didn't know that's how you found me, because that was like a pretty small scale like group. I don't think there was many people there, maybe 20, 30 people.
Yeah, an OG, Adam.
OG, man, I love it. I love it. I love it, man. Well, yeah, I guess like the thing for me is I always kind of did some online stuff. So ever since like I was quite young, kind of tapping into the online world, it's probably I always get a mix up, but around 12. I always say 12 because it was sometime in around that age. That's when I like first, like logged into my dad's computer and was like, I'm actually going to learn some of the stuff that you could do on this thing. Not just sign up to Facebook to do Farmville, right? Or whatever was going on. So I remember he used to be kind of a photographer, not like proper professionally, but just on the side. So he had Photoshop on his computer. Naturally, me being me, I was like, fuck it, yeah, I'll have a look at that. That looks fun. He edits photos. Maybe I can create some like graphics or something cool on there. Long story short, that kind of got me into that world of, I could create something digitally and then sell it. And that could potentially make me money. Wow, that's fascinating. And so that's kind of where I like got the little initial inspiration to say, hey, look, I don't know what I want to do online. I was 12, right? I had no idea what I was doing. But I know there's ways of making money, and this is actually really fun. So really since then, man, I just always knew I'd do something online, tried many things throughout those years, most of which didn't work very well, some of which I'd make some money, lose a bunch of money, and some would just be a complete waste of time. But all in all, man, it led me to, when I went to college, I went to UCD, studied commerce, was going down the route of I'm going to do college, but I'm never going to use my degree. Like that was my whole process. Naturally being in that environment where people that were all looking to become accountants or, be placed in finance companies. When you're around all those people, those thoughts enter your head of actually maybe that is the best route. That does sound pretty safe, secure, and there's clear progression over the years. And hey, when I'm 50, 60, I'll be making some decent money. So I did apply for jobs during college I think it was the second year. Mine was like a 3-year course. Yeah, didn't get them because obviously my heart wasn't fully in it. So I definitely didn't put in the effort needed. I'll put my hand up and say that. But yeah, man, then I just said, right, cool. I have no other options. This didn't work. I didn't get a job. Fantastic. And I remember the last job I applied to, I think it was Enterprise Ireland. I got the rejection email, and I was absolutely delighted. Like, I thought I wanted the job, but I got it, and I was like, this is unreal. Because now I have no option. I have to figure something out. So started freelancing, offering basically social media services, website development, email marketing, anything that I could get my hands on. I worked with a few online coaches, and like for one guy, I was basically his assistant, doing anything from taking sales calls to posting content to his Instagram to email marketing. Just whatever he needed, I would do. I didn't give a shit. I just wanted to make some money. And if I could learn on the job, because he was paying me very, very little, so he didn't expect me to be an expert, I was like, that's fantastic. So then later that year, started an agency. It kind of kicked off pretty much straight away. I think from the bit of freelancing experience I had, that all came together where things clicked pretty fast. But yeah, when we would have connected, I guess, man, through the speech that I gave that time, I would have had the agency. I'm not sure. We probably were doing maybe 200 grand a year at that stage. And then I had the coaching that I was just starting up really at that stage, which was doing okay. But currently that's my full-time thing. Obviously I exited the agency, yeah, probably about a year and a half ago now.
Cool. And you mentioned like your freelancing, your background in freelancing kind of stood to you to kind of go in and set
For
up your
sure.
own agency. Where do you think like your mentality came from, like that kind of hunger? Because like a lot of guys, myself included, would have always said
Yeah.
like entrepreneurship is cool, and I would have in university I would have said like, man, I'd love to be an entrepreneur, but also if I need to
Mm.
get experience in the workplace and got a job. But you
Hmm.
know, a lot of people like envision that they want to be an entrepreneur, but you know, you went and did it, and you had that kind of hunger and that drive. And where do you think that ambition came from?
Good question, man. It's definitely hard for me to say like exactly
Yeah.
where it comes from. I wouldn't call myself like a serial entrepreneur or anything by any means, because I've done pretty much two things well, which is the agency and the coaching. I'm pretty, pretty set on those two things. I don't really have, a goal of starting 10 SaaS companies on the side and exiting them for 10 million each or something. I'm very much just like, cool. These things work. They're really good cash flow and they're really enjoyable. So fantastic. I'll kind of stick in my lane, per se. But good question, man. Where does that come from? I think for me, it came from insecurity. So when I was 12, 13, my family was like, right, cool, you got to start making some money. Because where I live, most people would just work local jobs, bit of cash in hand, down the amusement park, whatever it may be. And I was just super shy, insecure, did not want to do that. That sounded absolutely terrible. To have to deal with people and be in the public eye all the time. So that's where, combined with the, seeing Photoshop on my dad's computer, those two things converging, I was like, aha, these two things are something I could work with here. Because that drive, if you don't want to get a job so much because of what you would feel like doing it, that to me was so powerful. Because then I would put in hours and hours and hours for barely any pay just to get things moving. Because that would show me that there's a potential future out there where I didn't have to do that thing that I really didn't want to do. So I think, I'd be lying if I would just sit here and go like, oh yeah, I was, always super confident that do this thing or whatever. Not at all. It was definitely insecurity for sure. But I guess instead of shying away from it, I just kind of lent into it. It was like, that's what it is. But I can find a way to make money and do okay without kind of doing that thing that I really didn't want to do, which was get a job, work with people like in person. And yeah, I think that's really where it comes from. Throughout college, I feel like that changed quite a lot. I obviously developed, got more confident, was more sure of who I was. And I think it was just seeing how, my family, we never had a lot of money. We were always fine. We got by, not a problem. But, we weren't loaded. My parents always worked close to minimum wage jobs. So kind of just seeing that and seeing not the stress, but the potential lack of things that we could do stood out to me. And I definitely made a mental note of that. And that was definitely a driver as well. I was like, I don't want that. Like, I want to have the freedom to be able to do more things. I want to have the freedom to be able to, hey, maybe I could just like make 5 grand a month and travel. That was my initial goal. So I think, yeah, man, insecurity, then seeing, like, again, diving into the negative side and seeing this kind of semi struggle that my family had and going, right, cool, that's not what I want. So I'll try and figure out a way to not have that for myself.
Yeah, 'cause it's funny because often when I look at like people who've achieved success online, I'm always like, how do they know like what was their strategy or like what was their
Mm.
roadmap? And I'm always just like so curious about it. Like, and then to hear you say that you simply just knew what you didn't want to do, and the way circumstances worked out, and that's how you ended up where you are. That's quite interesting.
I think it's more powerful sometimes to lean into that, right? Like you said,
Yeah.
instead of sitting there, like if you're 20 listening to this and you're like, yeah, man, I want to start a business, I want to be an entrepreneur. You're like, you're always focused on what is the idea going to be? What's that one strategy I'm going to use? What's the one business model? That's fine things to look at. But if you can just really lean into the other side and say, what are the things I really don't want to do? For me personally, leaning into negativity has always been more motivating than positivity, right? So instead of just being like, wow, I could make loads of money, for me, it's more powerful to go, wow, I could be homeless if I don't make this thing work. Or I could be living in a situation that I really, really hate and feel like a failure. That's more motivating to me. So know yourself, man.
On your journey, like you knew what you didn't want to do, and that was kind of your compass. How did you deal then with like your friends and your family kind of saying, listen, Adam, come back, like you can't make money online. We put you through university or you went through university. Like, how did you deal with like your peers and your family kind of? Because I'm sure you must have got some judgments there.
For sure. Definitely, man. Definitely. It's funny, I get this question a lot from the people I coach and mentor now, because a lot of people I'm coaching and mentoring are our age or they're a little younger and they're in college currently, and this is the exact thing they're going through. They've said to their parents, look, I want to do this thing, and then there's backlash and they're going to fight that. I think the key thing to notice is it's nearly always coming from such a good place. And whenever my mother was very much like, become a primary school teacher, because my two siblings are primary school teachers. So that was always the thing. And that was never from a negative place. It was always from, it's a job, that's okay money, it's safe, it's secure, and you'll be fine, right? So I think that's the key thing you first have to know is it's coming from a good place, and realize that it's not just your parents trying to be annoying you. Like, they want the best for you. But really for me, I think it only changed when I could show proof. So when I could go to my mother and say, hey, we just did 30 grand in a month or 40 grand, and show her, like, not just tell her and show her and be like, look, these are the numbers. Here's the screenshots. Here's the app. Here's the payments. Then of course she's going to be like, okay, I see that's real. So yeah, I think that's a key part of, you're not going to probably be able to convince your parents to believe in you from day one. And there will be a degree of you just going through the shit, proving it to yourself and then proving it to them. And then at that point, if they still don't believe you when you've made a ton of money, then that's a different issue.
Cool. So essentially, you're kind of saying just take ownership.
For sure. For sure. So like friends as well, right? Like I hear this a lot, especially from younger guys, like, yeah, but my friends don't think this is going to work, or they think that this is a bad idea because they heard of some guy who tried it and it didn't work. I'm like, yeah, cool. That's fantastic. But you want to do this for you, right? Of course, you want to still be friends with your friends, but like, do the thing you want to do, man. If they don't believe in it, they don't believe in it. That's fine. It's fine. Again, when you've got proof that it's worked and you show them, I'm sure their minds will change.
Gotcha. And then, so where were you when you set up your agency? Were you in Ireland or were you abroad?
I was in Ireland.
You didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we actually set it up in Ireland. Like we set up a limited company in, I believe it was like March 2020. That's when it was like officially incorporated and everything. But really, I'd say about a month after that, me and my business partner both were like, yeah, we don't want to be in Ireland, do we? No. Why did we just set up a company in Ireland? Like, this is probably not the worst thing we've done, but this is a really bad financial decision for income tax, for the company set up for the whole thing. So pretty shortly after that, we left. I set up in a different European country. First, that's when I set up my coaching business, because I hadn't had that set up and I didn't start coaching until kind of like a year or so after the agency kicked off. So I set that up in a different country, and then we brought the agency over the year after. So basically closed the Irish branch, set up a new one, and did it that way. But I was in Ireland when things started to work, as in I had enough money coming from the agency to live. That's when I went and started to travel more. So mainly just around Europe. But COVID obviously happened in 2020. So there was this point where I think we did, like our first maybe 15 or 20K a month with the agency. Not all profit, that's revenue, by the way. So, profit might be 70% of that, and me and a business partner. So we'd have to split it 50-50. But it was enough for me to be able to do it like full time, comfortably, and not have to worry about money. And I remember I had a trip booked to Vietnam. I had my visa, my Airbnb, my one-way flight. The whole thing was lined up. And I kid you not, it was one of those scenarios of 2 days before the flight, that was like the full lockdown being enforced. And I had to stay at home. So I pretty much just stayed in my childhood bedroom then for probably like another 6 months, taking sales calls with business owners with bunk beds in the background, because me and my brother used to share a room. So definitely not ideal for scaling what was then a multi-six-figure business. A nice experience to look back on, nonetheless, man.
Yeah. A good entrepreneurial story with the bunk
Oh, for
beds
sure.
in the background.
Bunk
You should
beds,
have got a
man. You
few
can't beat bunk
photos.
beds. I should have, man.
Yeah,
I'm
then
gonna go
that would
back
been
and do
gold.
that soon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
reshoot. You mentioned you had a business partner. Do you think at like such a young age, starting a business, that was kind of important for like stability and kind of structure and accountability?
For sure. Definitely, man. It definitely helped. Yeah, for sure. He was older as well. I think there was like maybe 5 years between us. So he definitely had like a different mindset. You know, he had been through more life experiences. He had done more things. When I had failed at 5 things, he had failed at 10. So he just like he had more lessons to share, you know. So it definitely did help. Um, yeah, like I think if I started without a business partner, it just would have taken me longer, right? Like I think it just sped up the journey massively because when you have two people pushing each other on, okay, yeah, you're gonna scale faster, right? You're gonna push each other both as long as you're both aligned to the same mission. It's why if I was to do it again, let's say going back in time and I didn't have a business partner, I would hire, a coach or a mentor straight away for that exact reason. Because coach or mentor can kind of be your business partner, but they just don't have equity, but you've skin in the game because you're paying them. I would kind of view it the same way, whereas I didn't have a coach or mentor, but I had a business partner. So I do think you need one of them. Of course, you can build a business without a coach, without a mentor, doing everything for free. But is it going to take you much, much longer? Yeah, I think it will. Same with a business partner. It can speed up the journey for sure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And even me, I'm starting my podcast currently, and I'm actually looking for like a business partner, or yeah, just have someone to like bounce ideas off and like accountability. I think that's so important.
It is, man. It is. It's a two-sided coin, like anything. So there's obviously massive cons that comes with having a partner as well. Obviously, you're probably going to split 50-50. So you've got to look at the financial side. And of course, there's going to become times where you're both making good money, but there's going to be decisions that you're going to disagree on. And the bigger the business gets, the more consequences of those decisions become. Like for us, we got to a point where, yeah, I think we had hit our peak as to what we were going to do together. We were like, great, this is cool. We got to this point. It was around 50,000 a month with the agency. And we just had very different visions of how we were going to continue to grow personally, professionally, and all of that. So we parted ways not too long after that. And that's obviously how I exited. He essentially took over my half. But yeah, man, if you are going to take on a partner, definitely spend some time vetting the person first. We knew each other for about a year beforehand, and we did some other like mini projects. We were both like vegan at the time, so we were like posting content about that online, and we were selling like these ebooks, super cheap, but just as a partnership. But there was also two others in the partnership, so it's like this four-way partnership. But that allowed obviously the two of us to see, okay, yeah, you have a good work ethic, you have a similar mindset to me, and it was kind of like a testing ground for them being able to do the agency just together, just the two of us.
Cool. What traits would you look for in someone that you want to do business with? Is there anything now, like any red flags that you'd have, or any green flags?
For sure, man. Lots. Red flags, you want to look at their personal life. It's like if you're going into a relationship with someone, right? Like you got to know what they're like personally, not just because you both feel good together, you think you'll go far together. How you both work in your personal lives. That's going to be a big key indicator. How do they manage relationships? Whether that's friends, family, or romantic, doesn't matter. It's all going to give you an indicator as to how they're going to act. And how someone acts is how well they're going to do in business, right? Because your result in business is just the compound effect of your actions. So that's really, really important. The other thing on the positive side you want to look for is, and to be honest, man, it's kind of a basic one, but like you need to have opposing skill sets, or that you're going to learn opposing skill sets. So in the example of, let's say you were going to get a partner for your podcast, if you were going to be the one, let's say, hosting the podcast, you'd probably want to have someone more, let's say it's someone more techie on the back end that's going to handle the operation. So the way we kind of split things was I was more front facing, marketing and sales for the agency, and he was more client focused, more about when a client comes in, make sure they're happy, they got a good experience, they're getting good results. and that our team is doing what we need to be doing. Of course, there's times where the boundary blurs, right? And I would lean into more operations and he would lean a little more into marketing, of course. But yeah, having a clear distinction between what you do and are going to do is key for sure.
With everything remote these days and like online businesses and remote podcasts, etc., like how do you network? Like where are good places to go, or is there any good communities you'd recommend?
Yeah, man. For me personally, I didn't really put a lot of effort into networking, to be honest. I started posting content online. It was 2020, and obviously that was during COVID, so nobody was really doing networking events or anything like that anyway. So to be honest, and to my advantage, I think I got lucky where it's the right time, where I could grow my audience there. Can you still grow an audience? Of course. It was a little easier back then on TikTok for sure. And because of that, I had quite a few Irish people see my content and reach out just because, we're a small island. So you see one guy doing business and you do business, you're going to reach out. You're going to probably know a friend of his or someone that went to college, or there's always going to be a connection. So that's kind of how I first started networking. Was I posted content. There was this guy, Keen, that reached out to me, and he was from close to where I was from in Ireland. He reached out and he was like, yo, I see you're in this place in Spain at the moment. Me and a friend are going to go down to Marbella. There's a bunch of guys going down there for the month of, I think it was November. We're going to just rent an Airbnb, and there's like a group of 10 of them between Ireland and UK. Do you want to come with us? And like, I didn't even know these guys. Hopped on a quick call with Keen. It's like, you know what? I've no fucking plans. I have no plans. Yeah, why fucking not? Let's do it. Let's give it a shot. I remember him and this guy Jordan picked me up. They drove from, I think they were in Madrid. So they drove from Madrid down to where I was. And then we went down to Marbella from there. And yeah, that was fantastic, man. That was my first look into networking, because again, there's about 10 guys there in total. We didn't all live together. It was me, Keen, and Jordan, 3 of us in an Airbnb. And then the rest were all spread out. But everyone was doing marketing. Like every one of us, whether it was a guy doing drop shipping, or a guy who had a marketing agency, or a guy that had a Facebook ad agency, or an email marketing agency, it was all marketing related. That was like my first look at people that were making more money than me first. Some were making way more, some were making a bit less, but also just connecting with people more so on like a vision level. But we were all young and we all had a similar vision. But we all wanted to make a lot of money, but we were also very much focused in our health, relationships, just becoming better as a human. It wasn't just purely, let's just make as much money as possible. It was very much self-improvement kind of vibes. So for me, man, that's really how I've done networking. And from there, my network has just kind of slowly grown from those connections I've made since then. So my advice to someone is, if you're not afraid of posting yourself, get that going. That was the best thing I did for the network for sure. And the second thing, this is what I hear from people that join my program, is join a program. It doesn't have to be mine, could be somebody else's. But just, if there's a group of people doing the thing you want to do and you want to be friends with those people, probably makes sense to be in the group where those people are. It's pretty simple, but obviously you do have to pay to play. It comes down to how much do you want. Like, is it worth paying a few hundred or 1,000 to get access to that network, which might pay back massive dividends? Yeah, that's a decision you'll have to make,
That networking event with Keen and those guys, that was obviously a good way to spend your weekend or a few days in terms of productivity and vision. Probably you can't quantify it, I imagine.
Oh no, 100%. Like, I've made so much money from those connections, and again, it's hard to put a number on that, but like even Jordan, for example, he's still a good friend of mine now. Last year I was with him for a week, and he was walking me through VSL upsell funnels, something I'd never heard of. It's a marketing term for basically you purchase a product, and after you purchase it, there's all these other products on offer. But doing that, not just in the typical way you'd see on like a Shopify store, where it says, hey, add these products also to your cart or to your order, but actually with videos. I'd never heard of this. Super interesting. He walked me through it for about 30 minutes of some community he was in. And I was like, I could definitely do this for what I do, for the program I run. This could work because we have other stuff we can offer, other materials, trainings, resources. And we did it. And like that one small thing that he just showed to me from that connection has made me a significant amount of money. And it was done once, made it once. And that has just produced yeah, like an extra few thousand a month for well over a year now. Just one small thing, but that came from the right connection of a guy that just knew the stuff and he had access to the information on how to make it work. So how valuable is that? Very, very.
Your network is your net worth, as they say. Do
They do.
you think that do you think that the online entrepreneurs, is there like a community in Ireland at the moment, or do you think if someone was listening to this, maybe like 21 or just finished college, do you think that like a lot of these meetups and a lot of these kind of networking events, can you stay in Ireland and meet these people? Do you think, or is it more so abroad? Do you think? Because from my perspective now, I haven't done too much research, but a lot of these guys seem to living like in Spain and like Dubai, and is Ireland like a
Definitely, man.
conducive place?
Yeah, I think it's possible for sure. There's definitely some people there still, but I think it depends on who you want to connect with. Like Ireland's small, right? So why do people leave Ireland? It's for a lot of times it is that reason. It's small and the network is limited, but also just financially, taxes are obviously crazy. So it depends on who you want to connect with, right? So like if you're connecting with other guys just starting out, Ireland's probably a really damn good place, man, for sure. But if you're trying to connect with a guy doing, I don't know, that's made 1 million or 2 million or something, he might be in Ireland, but there's more chances if he was Irish, he has left. Just from what I've seen, there's way more chance he is gone quite a long time. So can you meet them? Yeah, but meeting the people that are maybe doing more than what you're currently at, yeah, that's what, like Dubai is great for that, right? Like it's probably one of the best parts about Dubai is the network. Whatever you have to say about the country or the city in the country, or if you don't like it, or it's not for you, or you don't agree with the ethics, the morals, whatever, the network is phenomenal. And there's people I know that will just go there once every year or twice every year purely for that reason. A week or two, connect with a bunch of people. And again, if someone's in Dubai, they're probably doing okay because they have to have enough to live out there.
So you have this personal brand, and you spoke previously about like how beneficial it is to have a personal brand and to have some authority. Is there any downsides to having like an online presence? Like, do you ever get recognized when you don't want to get recognized, or have you ever had any incidents?
Yeah, for sure, man. I remember when I first started posting on TikTok, so 2020, I think it was a year after 2021, and I remember coming back and got into Dublin Airport, left the airport, got in a taxi or whatever, got out somewhere near the city center, and I mean immediately, it was just coincidence because I didn't have that many followers. It was just real coincidence that I just saw this guy flying a drone in a park, and I was just like, that's interesting. And he looked over, caught my eye, and he was like, "Oh, I follow you on TikTok." And then he joined my program the week later because obviously the trust and the rapport of meeting me in person. And so look, I haven't had really negatives. Of course, you'll get hate comments, and you'll get people like I get on a lot of my posts from Irish people. They'll say spoof, just that beautiful 5-letter word, and they'll never give you like a reason as to why they think that. It'll just be user 1045, no profile photo, spoof. And that's all I need to know. When I see the profile, I'm like, cool, that's fine by me, man. You can keep hitting me with those comments. It does good for the algorithm, so I'll take it. Yeah, man, that's definitely. I wouldn't say it's a downside. It's just something that people have to be aware of. You got to be willing to, of course, deal with that. Because if you've never posted yourself before and you post a video and you have 3 guys following you this and that, yeah, it's probably gonna, it's gonna hit your ego a little bit. So there's definitely a case of thick skin, just building that up over time. But I think the positives, no, I don't even think. For me, it's an absolute no-brainer. The positives outweigh it 10-1 for sure.
Did you always have thick skin, or is that something that came with time?
I think time, man. I think time. I've always been a bit stubborn, so I guess that's kind of similar. Like my family would always say, if I got as a kid like just some idea, I'd have to see the idea through. I have this funny story. I was shopping with my parents. I was super young. I saw a Nike T-shirt, and I was like, "That's so cool! I want a Nike T-shirt." And again, we didn't have tons and tons of money, so they're like, "No, like you're not getting a Nike T-shirt. You can get one in pennies. You can go to Primark, get one in there. It's completely cool. It'll be fine." And we did, and I went home and I like drew on the Nike symbol just with like a marker. And I was so proud of this, but I hid it away because I didn't want them to see it. And I remember them, pulling it out and just making such a case of it to me later on, like a few years later. I was like, yeah, that's an interesting example. But I think I was definitely stubborn. And if you're stubborn, that can obviously be a bad thing. You have to be aware of that. It's how you use the stubbornness, because it might mean that you're closed-minded and you get an idea, you won't let anybody, convince you otherwise. So you do have to remain open-minded, but if you are stubborn, yeah, that could be a really good thing. Because if you get an idea, you should then use your stubbornness to stick with that idea until it makes sense to change. So thick skin takes time, but I think the stubbornness leads into that for sure, man.
Yeah, I agree. I think definitely a healthy amount of stubbornness can be very useful. So yeah, from the outside looking in, Adam, like you've achieved success. You've achieved substantial success like at a young age. And I know people often put their best foot forward on social media. Everyone does that. Have you
For
had
sure.
any setbacks along the way, or any moments where you were kind of like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, or
For sure. Definitely, man. Definitely. So I think it's important to know, because for people listening, before I got into business, right? So like before I started in 2019 and graduated college and all of that, beforehand, so back in school when I was like 16, 17, I had a really like dark patch, like really dark. And I've talked about this publicly. Sometimes it can feel weird to talk about it publicly, but uh, I know I've got some really good feedback from people going through similar things. Yeah, I had really bad acne when I was a kid, cystic acne. So it's not like your typical pimples, like big boulders on your face. And like I mentioned, at 12, 13, I was really shy. I was really insecure anyway. So when I got acne at whatever, 15, 16, that really took me down from, on a confidence level, I was already 2 out of 10. And that took me to fucking ground zero, man. Like, so for a solid 2 years, yeah, like I really was not in a good place. I say this and it's a little bit cringe. Sometimes people hear it and they're probably like, that's ridiculous. But I do think the whole possibility of making money online kind of saved my life, because when I was in that period, I realized, yeah, okay, I can make money online. I can make money without showing my face. And like you can imagine, if you're insecure and then you've got all these spots and things making it even worse for you, that can be such a relief knowing that, wow, there's this way of making money where I don't have to show my face. So I say that not lightly. Like, I genuinely do think that kind of saved my life, knowing that that was a possibility, because that was like the glimmer of hope that I always had. It's like that one day I'll get to that point. But yeah, during that time, man, that was really rough, like really bad. And again, I don't say it like, I did not think there was a possibility or a reality in which I could be happy. Like, genuinely, I didn't feel. It's not that I was like, I was just sad. It was like I couldn't conceptualize how that could ever be possible, and that's obviously a really bleak thought to have. Once I got out of that, I feel like I got to a point where I realized I never want to be as low as that ever again. So any little hiccups or setbacks I've had with business or personal life, they haven't hit me as much. And I think that's just because, again, once you've gone so low, if anybody's listening to this and you've had like a serious period of a year or two of depression and potentially suicidal thoughts, you really never want to get to that level ever again. So you will embody and act and become the person that won't really ever get to that point again. So I've had hiccups for sure. When I was exiting the agency, there was like a 3-month period where the most stress I've ever felt in my life by far. Like 3 months of feeling like something was wrong with me, like there's something off here. My sleep was gone to shit. My libido was all over the place. Super stressful. Um, so yeah, I've had those stressors, and you will with business, of course. There's always going to be little things that are really difficult to deal with, but for me that helped. It helped going through a really hard, rough patch at a younger age, because then exiting the business, okay, it was really still stressful, but it didn't hit me as hard as it could have hit me if I didn't have the thick skin built up from that previous experience. Yeah, happy to go deeper, obviously, on any of that there if you want. But yeah, I
yeah,
think that's important for people to know, that there will be struggles. But if you've had a lot of struggles beforehand, that's really good. And if you view it as that, it will be like such an asset to you.
yeah. Thanks so much for like sharing your vulnerabilities, Adam. And you said that people might find us cringe, and yeah, first thing I just have to say, I don't think anyone will find that don't think anyone will find that cringe. Yeah, I think it's very brave of you to like open up on your vulnerabilities. I'm sure a lot of people will be able to relate to that also. Like, yeah, for me, growing up in secondary school, it was definitely had its like highs and its lows also.
Mm.
I can really relate to what you're saying. And I think it's such a young age, like maybe if you feel like you're getting bullied, or if you feel like, you know, if you're unhappy or you feel a bit isolated, like when you're that young as well, it's the first time you kind of feel these strong emotions at like 16, 17, and you don't know how to process them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it can be a very, very scary time. So yeah, I think if there's someone that's going through something of that nature, again, just realize that it's only going to continue that way if you let it continue that way. So for me, there was this moment, and I've told this one before, and I know it's caught people, so I'll say it again. There was this little moment I had where I'd come back from a dermatology appointment with my mother. At the time, I'm going to guess I was like 17, maybe 18. And so I wasn't even driving at the time. So she drove me into this appointment. I had to come out of school for it. And I had this issue, obviously, with the acne, but I also had this issue with my lips where, because of the medication I was taking for acne called Accutane or Roaccutane in Ireland, it's very strong. And I was on a very, very high dose for it. It dries out your skin. And anybody that takes it will know that. And it's a really horrible feeling. Mine reacted in such a way where the skin on my lips wouldn't grow properly. So it would scab over. And I was like, fucking hell, man, this is just another thing. Because it was like, now I had the acne, I had the insecurity anyway, just being super shy. And now you throw like this extra thing on. So I had this moment where I came out of an appointment and I had just gotten some really bad news about it. You know, I was hoping I'd come out of this appointment and they'd be like, yeah, you know, in 2 months it'll be gone and you'll be set. And it was very much the opposite of that. And they were like, no, this thing's gonna be here. I don't see this going away anytime soon. A year, 2 years, 3 years, we don't know. And obviously I think I was going to college the next year, so it was just soul crushing to hear that, you know. And I remember at that point I came outside, I was in the car with my mother, and the sun was shining, like really bright. You know, that kind of Irish sun where it's still fresh outside, but you got beautiful blue skies, sun is just beaming in. And I just started crying, man. It's like I just couldn't control myself, started crying. And I had a moment where I just realized that it was all on me. Like, it didn't matter how I looked. It was my perception of what I thought people were thinking. When they saw me, that was the problem. It wasn't that people thought I looked a certain way or would judge me a certain way. If they did, fuck them. But most people wouldn't, right? Because they'd have empathy, they'd have humility. And for me, that was such a key moment. Such a key moment. Knowing that was like the thing that was holding me back all that time, that was keeping me sad, depressed, not in a good position, was me not taking control, not controlling the things I could control, and just putting the blame on external factors. So I was blaming my skin, my acne, my this, my that. And I realized, like, man, you're the problem. Like, it's you. Like, it's how you're viewing this whole situation. Like, nobody is going to massively judge you because of how you look. If they do, then they're not worth the salt. And that for me was a game changer. And things changed for me at that point. And I think whatever you're going through, you can apply that, right? If you've started a business and it's not working, well, look at it and go, well, are there other people making it work? Okay, if yes, it's you. It's not the business model is broken, right? I hear that all the time from people with business. Like, Adam, I started an agency, it's not working. Yeah, it's not meant to work right away. It's going to take some time, right? But at the same time, if there's other people making it work, you can too. So you've got to look at what you're doing. Your inputs are going to give you the output that you're trying to get. So if the output isn't what you want, change the input. So that's like a really simple example, but I know that was very true for me on a personal level. But then you can apply that to business or really anything else that you're doing, you know? So the podcast, man, right? Like if you get to a point and you're like, podcast isn't going as well as I thought, which might come into your minds, you know, I would urge you to look at that as well and go, cool, well, are there other people doing better than me with the podcast? If so, it's the input, you know, it's maybe how I'm doing it or how I'm marketing it, or there's something else I could change to get the result that other people are getting.
I like that a lot, Adam. So like focus on what you can control is kind of a key message there.
100%. It's all you can do, right? Like there's always going to be external factors and things happening, a recession, COVID, or, you know, whatever. But all you can control is what you control.
Do you have any, like, does anyone inspire you at the moment? Do you have anyone who like inspires you in the business world or personally? Is there any like particular author that stands out to you?
Yeah, I've got a couple, man. I've got a couple. I feel like I've quite a few, and there wouldn't be just one person that I'd want to kind of emulate. And you might relate to this. Like, there's guys I'd be reading books from about business that I really respect, and there's a guy about mindset, and there's a guy more on the health and fitness side. So I feel for me right now, it's just like a big combination of a bunch of very inspirational people. So for example, I'll do my second marathon this year. It's just something I did. I did one last year, so I'm like, cool, I'll do another one. There's a couple of guys in that space that I'd really look up to. A guy, Nick Bear, great example of just a guy who runs a business, has a family, but also has time for his health and fitness. On the business side, there's a few. There's a really interesting guy based out in Dubai called William Brown. If anybody's into, starting a coaching business or consulting, he's definitely someone I would look at. And then of course there's some older dudes, that I'm looking up to right now in terms of property and some other things on that level. But yeah, not just one person, and it's definitely a mix right now.
Yeah, same here actually. Yeah, it's kind of a hard question saying like who's your one idol, but yeah, different influences.
For sure.
Do you?
For sure. Would you find as well you'd have people for specific things? Because I know for me that
Yeah,
normally seems to be the case.
yeah, absolutely, Adam. Like I have various different interests. Like I'm kind of getting into the world of entrepreneurship, spirituality, like anything.
Hmm.
Various different people interest me. Like various different fields, like different authors. I'm doing a course at the moment by Justin Welch. So like that's interesting me at the moment. It's on like how to build your brand on LinkedIn. So I'm finding that interesting. Yeah. My favorite book is by Eckhart Tolle. It's called The Power of Now.
Ah, yes.
Um, yeah.
It's a good
Have you
one.
read that, Adam?
I have. Not the full thing, though, I'll
Yeah.
be honest. So I do need to finish it. I've only dipped in and out.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. Just on the whole, like really got me thinking about like I suppose I think well my analysis will be kind of like draws in like Buddhism and like being present in your ego, and it really kind of opened my mind to different like topics.
For sure. For sure. Again,
Yeah,
haven't dove deep enough in it, but
yeah,
I think it's definitely more on the spiritual side for sure.
yeah. And do you have any like mentors at the moment? Like, is there any like do you have a formal mentorship relationship with anyone?
Not currently. There's one that's about to start, but it's for property. So it won't be directly, about online business.
Cool. And what's drawing you into property? Why do you think that's a good investment?
Yeah, it's a good question, man. For me, it's very much a personal thing. Like, I know there's other things I could do with my money for sure. There's other places I could put it, other investments that might be more liquid. So it's not so much that it's like the best investment. I wouldn't believe that. It's just it's really safe and secure, and I like that. And it's physical, and you can touch it. And can somebody steal your property? No, they can rob your property, and they come in and smash the place up and do what they want to it. But they can't just like forklift your property out of the ground and it's gone. So I like that. So I bought my first property last year, and I'll continue to buy some more. So I'll spread them out. I think I won't just buy in one country. Probably spread it out. But yeah, I think long term, obviously, it makes a lot of sense if you can have some properties that you have for yourself and your family and friends and whatever, but then also to have properties that you would rent out. I think it's a nice nest egg to have. I wouldn't try out the term passive income because most income isn't truly passive. It takes some work, same as a property, unless you have management company and all the people in place to do that for you. But that's kind of the next step for me is to kind of look at, okay, I've made some money. I'll continue to make money with the coaching I do and everything. But yeah, when you have the money, then you need to put it somewhere. Letting it stack in a bank account is it can be scary.
Yeah, like there's different aspects of success, and I know like maybe you've achieved financial freedom and you have like you kind of have a roadmap for certain investments. What does like success look like for you? Like what are the other components of success?
Love the question, man, because it really isn't. The money is the reason I focus on money so much with my social media content because 99% of people that follow my stuff, the problem is the money. They need the money. When they get the money, they can focus on the other things. So I do strongly, strongly believe in that, that if you're trying to get success, again, whatever that means for you, it makes a lot of sense to go through a period, like an intense period of a couple of years, whether it's 2 years or 5 years, depending on your situation, where you just make as much money as you can, right? Not at the expense of other things, but like that is your top priority. Okay. So for me, that's kind of what I did since college. Was I still working out and pursuing fitness? Yes, I was. Was I still putting time into relationships, friends, all that stuff, family? Yeah, I have. But business was number one. So have those priorities. And I think that what that does for you is that if you do not have to think about your bills, you don't have to think about, can I afford rent for the next 6 months? When you can have the freedom to not think about, well, if I get fired, and in fact, that gives you a degree of security, which then from that, you can build other things. So for me personally, what does success look like? I feel like it's multifaceted for sure. It's financial, but then it's more so what the finance brings. So for myself, like last year when I bought a property, that was a really key moment for me because I always wanted to do that where it's a place that my family could use and I could use. And that's like a big component of being able to support the people that I truly care about. If that's giving back, if it's having a place they can use, having materials of the success be things that they'll also benefit from. But yeah, man, look, my life plan is I'll have kids. Raising a family is a big, big priority. It's something I'm very excited to do. And I won't be one of these, billionaire CEOs. That's not attractive to me whatsoever. It's make money, continue what I'm doing, invest it wisely. Don't be too risky and be rather safe with the investments I make. That's the way I've always kind of done things. Not live beyond my means, keep my expenses low as I need to, and have that time, man. Whether it's do more marathons and do more running, it's fucking have kids early and have a bunch of them. Like that's what I want, and I want the freedom to be able to do that. And really, where that comes from again is it's money. So
Yeah, it's a very solid plan, and yeah, it makes complete sense again, Adam.
curious
You
for you, man.
mentioned
What's success for you?
what's success for me. Yeah, I think as you said, like I think you need income coming in. Like you don't want that stress or that uncertainty. So that's I think definitely to achieve financial freedom, something I'm kind of working towards, or definitely one of my goals. I think that's essential, and I agree with you 100%. You need that security and that certainty. And then I think it's like relationships, like having relationships, having those friends, and yeah, and then family. I think also family is obviously number one, but I think your priorities in your 20s, I think making money, it does make a lot of sense, if you can do that in your 20s. You mentioned that you prioritize making money, and you were successful in that pursuit. Did you, like, and you said that you still focus on relationships, but it wasn't a priority. I was backpacking last year. I was in South America. I was backpacking for like 4 months. And then I came back and I was like, okay, like I've just been kind of like soul searching and doing yoga and partying for the past 4.5 months. I was like, I need to do a bit of work. And so my friend was actually in a similar position, and we moved here to Las Palmas, and we're like, okay, like we need to like kind of lock ourselves away a bit and get some work, lock ourselves away for a period and get some work done. But we were like, we tried like the social media fad, like monk mode, where we were like super like tracking everything, like our fitness. We're tracking our fitness, like our business goals, like goals outside of our 9 to 5, and like we did achieve certain successes, but definitely after like 4 weeks, like I really felt that we were neglecting relationships, because like we weren't even like on Saturday. We were like Saturday would be our rest day, and we were like, do we want to go to this party? If I could drink there, will that just be a distraction? But after a while, I think neglecting social relationships, you do just get a bit kind of isolated, and you almost get a bit like socially awkward.
Yeah.
How did you handle that? Because you must have had periods of like, you must have
A
had those
lot of it.
periods of kind of locking yourself away.
Yeah, for sure. I can also relate, man. I went to Asia for I think it was 5 months in total, so very similar experience where it was in college, it was Erasmus, so I was studying and I had a dropshipping store at the time, so I had a bit of income coming in, whatever. But yeah, it was very much just I'm here to have a good time. I remember coming back and the itch I had to just do some fucking work was insane. I was like, right, last year of college now, what the hell am I going to do? Really put the foot down And yeah, it just brings back the memories, man. So I can relate to that a lot. In terms of, you know, making that sacrifice like socially, I think it's personal, man. I think it's up to like the person, you know, like if you're a super extroverted person, well, like, yeah, doing monk mode and locking yourself away for 3 months probably make you go clinically insane. You'll probably come out of that in a stretcher. But like if you're like me and you're introverted, you won't need as much of it. You're still going to need it, right? You're still going to need people. You're going to need human interaction. You just won't need it as much. So, like for me, I think it was a bit of an advantage. But I did have periods. So, for example, those guys, Keen and Jordan, that I met when they invited me to Marbella, one of the main reasons I went with them was because I had been by myself for 30 days in a part of Spain. Where I was like, I went there just to work. And that was my goal. And I got 30 days in, and I was like, man, I'm starting to lose my mind a bit here. This is getting a bit too Truman Show vibes. Like I just feel like a character now. I feel like a character in a movie here. This is weird. So when they gave me that invitation, I hopped on it because I was like, this is great. This gives me exactly what I'm looking for: social interaction with the right people that are on the same path as me. This is fantastic. So yeah, it's a part of it. You know, do you need to cut off all your relationships to be successful? Hell no, man. Definitely not. I think there's a bit of a glorification of that as well in social media because like it sounds extreme and it kind of sounds cool in a sense. You know, like the whole monk mode, like cut everyone off, don't drink, don't party, do nothing but work for 6 months. Yeah, I agree. That will get you really far. But what's more likely is that 30 days in, you'll have a moment, you'll be like, this is fucking crazy. I'm losing my mind here. And then you'll just quit completely. Versus what if you just tried to balance the things? Again, going back to my example, business being top priority, but still having the other things there, just less helpful. I think you'd actually get quite a bit further.
I do agree with you with like with social media and YouTube, like going to monk mode. I think there is a like bit of BS in like the whole productivity space. Like I see a lot of these morning
100%.
routines, like red light, 20-minute stretching, cold shower every morning, 6 a.m. I don't I don't hear many like actual successful people talking about their morning routine.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of successful people just get up and work, man. It's real boring, you
Yeah.
know? Just get the jocks
Yes.
on, brush the teeth, and straight into it. Like,
Should vlog. You should vlog that.
oh, I'm sure
My
you get
morning
tons of
routine.
views, man. Oh, they'd love it.
Yeah. Do you like so while we're on the topic of like kind of productivity, like what do you find useful? Like I know from your content that you meditate a bit.
Good question, man.
Is yeah.
There's a few things for sure. I feel like I need to do a lot more of it at the beginning. So it's like if you are trying to progress in fitness, you'll start, you know, and you'll have to do all the things, and you'll get to a point and you've built your foundation, and you won't need to do as much of it. It's very much the same for me with this. Going back to that episode that I mentioned, right, being 16, 17, really dark, deep place. One of the main kind of ways I feel like I got out of that was through, it actually wasn't through business. That was the possibility of making money online was like this hope, this beacon of light. But like the practical things I did was very much kind of a lot of what you just mentioned, like a lot of the cold showers, meditation, cold sea swimming, a lot of uncomfortable things at that age just to get outside of your comfort zone. And then from that, see new parts of myself. You know, like every 5 minute cold shower, you'd realize some other little insecurity you had, or little flaw, or little unspoken fear that was holding you back. So a lot of those things helped me out. Currently, I would still meditate from time to time. I would still do yoga. Like every morning, I will stretch. You know, it's not a full yoga routine. It's like maybe 10, 15 minutes. I'll always get enough steps each day, 10,000 steps. I'll do weights workouts maybe 3 times a week and do 3 runs, you know, stuff like that. But it's very much, again, it supports what I do. It's not the be all end all. So if I'm, you know, injured myself tomorrow, would my life completely fall off a cliff because I couldn't do my 10,000 steps? No, it wouldn't. I would still do the work I need to do. I would just put more time into the other things, such as meditating, all those things. Tips I can give, that I do want to give, again, especially for the people that are kind of, you know, getting into this world for the first time, the online business world, is be very intentional with your screen time. Because if you're going to now work online for yourself, you're going to spend more time on a screen. And if you're putting that on top of 4 hours a day of scrolling on TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, and all these other things, then that's going to be a bit too much. So be very intentional with how much time you spend on screens. You don't need to hustle 16 hours a day, right, on your laptop just to make money online. You're doing a lot less time. You do a lot better focus, more strategic work. That'll get you there faster. Cut out pornography if that's something that you were dabbling in. For me, that was massive, and that definitely held me back for a very long time. Cut that out, get it gone. It's going to take time to get it out of your life because you've probably been watching it since you're like 13 or 14, if you're like most young guys. So it's not going to go like that, but probably the biggest vice you could cut out before anybody thoughts about, drinking, drugs, anything. Man, pornography, get that shit gone first. That's definitely number one in my books. But yeah, there's plenty of other things, but you do those two things, you keep your screen time down and you stay away from those vices. Yeah, you'll be in a pretty good position to be pretty productive. Then it just comes down to discipline, actually getting what you need to get done when you say you're going to get it done.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned like pornography. I think that's like such an issue for like so many guys, like especially guys in like secondary school and high school, and it's just so bad.
Oh, man.
It's such an unhealthy habit. You wonder
Yeah.
like what are the
Yeah.
effects of like generations of young guys like watching porn, because
Man,
Yeah.
it's not going to look good. That's what I know for sure. That's not going to be pretty. Like you can
Yeah.
imagine, like our parents, they didn't really have that, right? Could they
Mhm.
still find pornography? Yeah, of course. I'm sure they'd find magazines and fucking movies when movies came out, right? But like the access now is just so insane, and it is
Mhm.
scary to think what that access will look like in 40 years from now when technology has advanced 40 years. So it's scary to think, but yeah, what's funny is I remember my mother once asking me when I was really young, have you ever watched pornography? And I was like, no, God, I'd never do that. Obviously I did, right? And I remember just thinking like, oh my God, mom, you're actually just you're such a mom. Like, this is just so like not cool for you to say that. Like, why are you trying to tell me what I shouldn't watch? And it's funny then coming years later going like, oh man, she was right the whole time. God damn it. She was right the whole time. And so people listening to me and you say it might think the same thing, might be like, these lads are just boring, man. What are they on about? But I'm telling you, when you see through that and you cut it out for a period of time, you'll feel a lot better. Your head's going to be clearer. You're going to be more motivated, and you're going to see the world more for what the world is. Like you're going to respect people more. That was definitely something I found as well. So, yeah, man, what an issue.
Yeah, 100% an issue, and I think it's something that's not talked about enough.
For sure.
How do you de-stress? So like, do you always take Saturdays off? Do you always say like, okay, Saturday I'm not thinking about the business? Do you go on like a holiday, or like do you have anything specific like routine, just like completely take your head away from the work?
Yeah, man. I'll be honest. I don't often feel like I need to do that. I don't often feel like I need to get away completely. I really like knowing what's going on in my business. For me, like last weekend, for example, I took Sunday completely off, which is not something I do regularly. Like that's probably something I do. I could count the number of times per year I do that. It's very rare that I take a full day off. And when I say a full day off, I mean like not check anything. Don't look at any team messages, students, nothing. The whole lot completely off. Yeah, man. I actually I was finishing the day and I was just like, yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting back into it. So it definitely works and it definitely rejuvenates me. But at the same time, I like what I do, which is, it's a funny thing to say because I know a lot of people's situation is, yeah, like your weekend is your escape and that's fine. But just know that you can get to a position where the stuff you do, you actually do enjoy. Of course, there's going to be headaches you got to deal with, like anything. But like I deal with 99% things that are quite enjoyable to deal with because I've learned to love the game of what I do, and that's quite beautiful. And it's really just a message I want to get to people is like the business you want to build, if it's online, it doesn't have to be the things you hate. You can very much build a business around the life you want. And that's something that I didn't do for a long time. And now for the last year or so, I've done that with a lot more intentionality. So my business now versus 2 years ago, I enjoy it a lot more now. I have less anxiety about it now. I have less stress about it now because I've just eliminated the things I hate, and I've done more of the things that I really like and that I'm good at. So I think that's a key part, man. But yeah, for me, exercise is such a good way to de-stress. So like that, I'll work out not every single day, but most days of the week, whether it's a run or at home with the weights or at a gym. I'll pretty much do something every day. It's massive. I'll know if I haven't done that for 3 days, I'll feel a bit off. I'm definitely addicted to the release from exercise for sure. But yeah, man, I love a good book. You know, I love a good book. Get me down to the beach on a Sunday, a couple of hours with a book. Yeah, I'm doing good. So that's a big part of it, man. Family time as well. Time with people I care about. That's always good. Just to kind of ground you a bit again. You know, stop thinking about payments and this coaching call and this thing that's going on, and just reality, man. Just back to the basics.
No, sick, Adam. And yeah, good for you. Do you ever drink? Like, do you enjoy a drink every now and then, or
I do. Yeah, not too often. I'll have, I'd say maybe one or two glasses of wine a month, just casually at a dinner. Started to get into the wine world a year and a half ago, and my eyes have been opened. I'm very much a wine man now. Proud to say it. Apart from that, man, I'd say there's a couple of times a year where I'll go, proper session. Good few drinks. Normally when I'm back home in Ireland, but it's normally for an event and an occasion. So I will enjoy that, but not something I do regularly. Every time I do it, I'm like, cool, great. That's me done for 6 months. Fantastic.
yeah.
Don't feel the need to do it again now, so I'm set.
When in Rome, as they say?
As they say, man. As they say. Funny on that, John, I do want to mention I did 3 years with no alcohol when I was in college. So
Yeah.
I've done the period of, cutting it out completely. And yeah, like I kind of just reintegrated it then. And I was like, yeah, cool. It's not controlling me anymore. I feel like I have good control over it now. But there's certain times in life you will have a better time with alcohol. Like I remember going out in college to nightclubs completely sober. And my God, looking back, they were some of the most boring nights of my life because everybody else is just fucking hammered and I was just sober. So there's certain things in life you just gotta, like you said, do what the Romans would do, man. So if you're going out clubbing, either just don't go out clubbing or maybe go out and have a few drinks.
Yeah, definitely. I did like a patch. I did like 4 months not drinking here,
You're
and I think it is beneficial to take a break for a while, especially if it's like,
for sure.
for me, it was getting a bit too much. Like, so I needed a break. But yeah, I'm kind of similar to you. Like, I enjoy a drink every now and then. But yeah, I definitely think it was beneficial to take some time away from it. 3 years in university, that must have taken a lot of willpower.
It didn't, man. My course it wasn't the hardest in the world, I do have to say that. Compared to a lot of courses, it was probably very chill. Um, I think we did 20 hours a week, yeah, as like lectures, but 20 hours a week of lectures, and then projects and homework and whatever you had to do for, I guess a few hours a day. I really struggled with maths. So like in not primary school, secondary school, I did like lower level maths. So I, passed that or whatever. But then my college course kind of assumed you had a higher level, but you didn't need it. So everybody had pretty much done higher level. So I know I really struggled with that. It was a case in first year I'd spend like 3-4 hours a week getting grinds just on maths. UCD actually provided them for free, so shout out to them. Otherwise, I definitely wouldn't have got them. Wouldn't have been paying for them. But yeah, man, it definitely derailed me from business for sure. This is the thing. I look back and like I was doing business before with other things like drop shipping and a few things. And then I kind of stopped for 3 years while in college and just did little bits and pieces. And then obviously started properly afterwards. Sometimes I think back, like, where would I be if I had just not gone to college? I think in some regard I'd be further ahead on the money side, but I think I'd be further behind on the life experience side. Like the 5 months I spent in Asia, that was for college. That was an Erasmus. I did 2 months in Mexico in first year of college, which was during summer. I lived with a Mexican family. They just spoke Spanish, so I kind of almost got to fluent level Spanish with them. I taught kids English in this little school. It was a really fun experience. Like that, I wouldn't have done that. Like that was just purely because it was a college society that was organizing this thing. A company called EIL Ireland, by the way. I'm just going to shout them out because it was free. They paid for the whole trip and everything, which was insane. It's the only reason I did it, to be honest. It's why it got my attention. So if someone wants to go down that path of volunteering, then yeah, have a look at what they do. But overall, man, I think college definitely, yeah, held me back financially, but I think on the life experience side, it was for sure it was worth it.
Cool, and like that experience is like invaluable in your early 20s.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because like you can imagine, let's say I escaped and then at age 35 I went and did that. It just wouldn't have been the same, man. 35 living with a family, it just wouldn't have worked. Whereas I was like 19 or 20. Perfect, man. They just brought me in as their own son for 2 months. They were like the nicest people ever. Still, I still have contact with them. I still visit them. So like that's a bond I'll have for life. Again, wouldn't have got that if I wasn't in college and I didn't get this email that said, "Do you want to travel for free?" If I didn't get that email, I wouldn't have done that. So it was definitely worth it.
Cool. If you met 18-year-old Adam, what would you say to him?
What a great question. I would tell him that he needs to realize it's him and it's not the world. Because at 18, that's when I was in that period of being very dark, down, not in a good place. So if I could just tell him, look, man, you'll be fine. You will be happy. It is possible for you. You can get to that point and you'll do fine. You'll make money you want to make and you'll get the life that you've been thinking of. But the only reason you'll have gotten it is because you will have realized that everything in your life is because of you and not the world. So like the success you want to get is not going to just come to you. You're going to have to go get it. The unhappiness you're going through right now doesn't have to be there. It's because you are allowing it be there. Like you need to change how you're viewing the world. You need to change your inputs, your actions, your habits, your beliefs. And if you change all that, you will be completely fine. And that's what I truly believe got me to where I am. And yeah, I'm happy where I am. So that's exactly what I would say.
Yeah, I really love that, Adam. And I really like what you said is like you will be happy. I think that's such an important thing to be cognizant of. Like if you're ever going through a rough patch or like anxiety, just think like you will have joy again and you will be in a good place. Like just maintain that belief.
For sure. And that's so hard to believe when you're in that moment. So hard. Like you will. Like the only reason you won't is if, okay, God forbid you do something, number one, or number two, clinically, chemicals in the brain, you actually have like a, clinical depression. Like that's different. I can only speak on what I went through, which was like circumstantial depression, which is I feel depressed because of these factors and these thoughts I'm having, but very much things I could change. If someone has something clinical, hey, I definitely am not the man to give you advice on that. You need extra help. But yeah, man, I think it's so important because like, have you been in a period like that where you feel like you had anxiety, stress, depression, and just an
Yeah,
overall sense of not being where you want to be?
100%. Definitely in university, like I kind of like got sucked into like the party scene and
Hmm.
like house parties, and I found I kind of got lost in that, and I definitely felt kind of like isolated at a stage, and but I definitely felt isolated, and I could really relate to like just feeling that you will never be happy again, kind of a dark place, like overwhelmed with kind of anxiety. And but yeah, that's why I kind of related to what you said, just like believe that like you will be happy again, and it's just a period.
For sure, man. It's great, obviously, hindsight and be able for us to look
Yeah.
back and see that. But again, I think for you, both of us going forward, you have that awareness now that you'll carry through, so that if you're in a period like that again, which hey might happen because we're human, that you'll have the tools now and the awareness to get through it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, Adam. Yeah, it was such a pleasure having you on today, Adam. I think you've a great story, and you really have a lot of experience and invaluable insights from your life journey so far. So personally, I'm extremely excited to see how far you go and what you will do next. And yeah, you're just a really genuine and nice person, Adam. So I'm really appreciate your time today.
Appreciate you having me on, man. It's been a great chat, and yeah, shout out to you, man. The questions were questions that yeah really made me reflect as well. So I really enjoyed the time with you, man, and I'm excited to see where you go with things as well.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, Adam. Talk soon, man.
Peace, man. Have a good one.